So,
Yeah, I did a really good job of not nose breathing into the microphone when I wasn't talking last week. I got double aught buck nose barrels blasting at you. I once killed a man with a snot rocket. Hey, rough draft research in the house. What you got to do? It's not the off season yet, but it kind of feels like it. Packers lost, Chiefs lost. This dude's a Minnesota fan.
Hey, good segue. Speaking of Minnesota,
what's going on with Minnesota?
I have no idea. I really appreciated the tweet from Christian where it said Jim Harbaugh going to Minnesota, and that guy replied, what was it? It's
an upgrade over Kirk Cousins for sure. We just got to see how good Harbaugh's arm still is.
Yeah, that was
hilarious.
Great. But then,
it was like smart move or something. I don't know. It was funny.
Well, I've been seeing those all day, and then an hour ago, apparently he called Michigan and informed them that he's going back to Michigan. So.
That stresses me out. How bad was the interview that he couldn't even wait to get back to Michigan to tell him? Like, he had to be like, yo, dude, fuck that. Nah, I'm coming back. Like, I don't know.
It kind of feels like
he wasn't going to get the job.
No. I mean, this is the moment, right? So 2015 was his last year in San Francisco. He's been in Michigan for a long time.
2015.
And if he needs to, climb up, get these guys in a position to be a top contender in college and prove himself ready to come back to the NFL, just to be like, I guess, that didn't work out, Like, what the
fuck? But moving through that, Brian Flores suing the NFL.
Oof.
Bill Belichick apparently texted the wrong Brian in the division. Congratulating Brian on getting the job, saying he's heard it from, what did he say? He's like, I heard from Buffalo that you got it.
Yeah, you're the guy.
Yeah, so turns out he was texting Brian Flores, and so Bill Belichick in hot water, ? I guess it doesn't really matter.
I mean,
it's just something to talk about.
Yeah, you're just shining a light on like what we already knew, right?
Yeah. Course.
I mean, I don't want to. I guess, that's enough said.
If I was him, I'd turn it into being a whistleblower. Like, did it on purpose, dog.
Who's to say he didn't?
He might have. Who knows?
It's whatever. But that's too bad. Honestly, kind of shitty for. If I'm at that level, I feel like I use last names, comma first names.
Yeah.
You got how many Brians does Bill Belichick know? You know what I mean? How many Floreses does he know? Probably fewer.
Maybe it just says Brian, like AFC West.
Yeah.
He's like, wrong one.
That's funny. I had a picture of a dolphin, but I thought it was a buffalo.
Lastly, Brian Daboll, offensive coordinator from Buffalo now. New York Giants head coach. I don't know if we mentioned that last week.
DAY-bol.
DAY-bol. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
What did you say?
I think I said Daboll.
Oh.
Yeah.
Daboll. My bot. DAY-bol. Ken Dorsey, the new offensive coordinator at Buffalo. If you watched last year's Coach's Corner, that was my coach to watch. So hopefully he can step up. And then Joe Brady coming in to be the quarterback coach. So that'll be fun. Tom Brady retired.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he told me himself.
Yeah, twice.
He said, Daniel, don't tell Adam, but I think I'm done. And I was like, Adam, we still good on that, cash money? And he's like, fuck yeah, let's do this. So sell your secrets and burst a bubble, I guess. just because you're the greatest ever doesn't mean you're not going to get, the short end of the media stick.
Yep.
That is so shitty. Like literally the greatest career ever in football, and he can't decide. Like he can't just say it himself. He has to let fucking Adam Schefter do it for him
On fucking Twitter.
Yeah,
Like,
like
Jesus.
tight.
Yeah, too bad, man. He was a Tristan Wirfs away from an 8th ring.
Yeah.
I'm okay with him not.
Yeah, same.
Well, speaking of older players, let's go into our first part 1 of this ADP versus reality. We're just doing kind of an overview of stuff we've talked about, just a collage, not a collage.
Compilation.
My favorite, compilations, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. There's so much money being shot everywhere.
Thank you for that. So this first one is, are they done yet? So I'm going to start with DeAndre Hopkins, and I'm just going to kind of bring this up, let you know how they finished, how many games they missed, contracts, free agent status, and then I'm going to kick it over to you guys, just see what you got to say, and then we'll just kind of breeze through this. So starting off with DeAndre Hopkins, ADP, a wide receiver 4, fantasy finish of 43, missed 6 games. He'll be 30 years old at the start of the season, free agent in 2025, but a potential out in 2023 with it would be a $15.5 million dead cap if they did decide to do that. So how do you guys feel about DeAndre Hopkins? Is he done yet?
No.
Nah.
No.
I mean, it depends on what you mean. I guess is he a top 5 receiver anymore? Probably not. But is he a top 15 consistently? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, this year yards per catch were higher than the past 2 years. Both those years he was the wide receiver 4. He had more touchdowns this year than the past 2 years. He just missed some games. If he can bounce back and stay healthy, I think we know who he is. And the big contenders on that team, I mean, pretty much that whole team except for him and Kyler are free agents. Like the entire skill position collection of that entire team is, up in the air. I think they're going to rebuild consistently with a healthy Hopkins, and I think he makes top 12. I think he's got one more in him.
Awesome. Yeah, I can see that. Next, Allen Robinson. As you can see, we're doing receivers, and then we'll kick it down to running backs. But Allen Robinson, wide receiver 11, fantasy finish 83, missed 5 games, 29 to start the season, a free agent. Could we finally see him with a real quarterback? And if we do, will it matter?
I remember thinking in the early half of the year that Allen Robinson still looked good, and just the offense wasn't working. Then I stopped really caring about the Bears just in general. So I'd like to watch the second half of the season. But if it turned out like the first half, then yeah, I'm all for chasing after him on another team. I thought he still looked like he could move and get open. He just wasn't getting the ball.
Yep, I'm pretty much there with you on all of that. It's kind of just underutilized, even in the first part of the year. He came out of week 1, 11 targets. But after that, really 6, 7, 4, a lot of threes. Just that team, it didn't know exactly what it was doing. Was Andy Dalton the quarterback? Was Matt Nagy going to find a way to save his job by just pretty much doing nothing? That's kind of what it looked like for a little while. So I can't judge him harshly off of this year, but he is not at the top of my give him another shot list, personally.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Nice. Corrdarrelle Patterson, ADP 75, fantasy finish, running back 7. Missed 1 game. He'll be 31 to start the season. He's a free agent. We did see the whole Stephon Diggs, wow him. What was that? Like barbecue? Talking about how he's the best athlete in the world, maybe trying to recruit him. I don't know. Do you guys see his value anywhere else? Maybe back to the Falcons, or what do you guys think?
What can you say?
Yeah.
What a perfect disaster.
Yeah. It definitely feels like one of those just flash in the pan things that's never going to happen again. And this is the type of shit that I would never fall for. It's like the best version of what Mike Davis did last year. Like the best possible version of that. And so now everyone's going to be tripping over themselves to go get Corrdarrelle Patterson. And in my opinion, if you're smart, you're going to go, nah. A 31-year-old guy who had one crazy awesome season is probably not going to do it again. I don't know. I'm not touching him at all.
Yeah, he reminds me of some other folks that might get discussed. In my head, it's kind of like, and this, don't take this wrong, but it's kind of like a Brandon Cook situation where probably should have bought in on him. You know, he had a 1,000-yard season. And the reason is there was no one I trusted in the rushing game there. And there was no one I was going after in the receiving game. The quarterback room was a disaster. But, you know, even the worst NFL teams are putting up 3,000 yards through the air at least, you know. So you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Someone's got to catch the ball. So he kind of seemed like the guy that existed there this year. And I don't think that's sustainable.
Yep.
That's kind of what it's trying to say.
Well,
I agree.
Next, James Conner. ADP 35, fantasy finish of 8, missed 2 games, 27 to start the season, and he is also a free agent.
Ooh,
We talked about him last week, but I don't know. Do you still got it?
Oh, he found it. I don't think he had it before this season. But, I mean, I got to keep the talking shit about James Conner gag rolling. I don't know, man. We can see. I don't know that I expect him to be like a top 10 running back next year, but he could have a really good season.
Yeah. I think that, you know, it depends on the landing spot, but I think he's proved himself. Last year, this 2021 season with the Cardinals is actually his worst yards per carry of his career. So a lot of it came from just scoring 15 touchdowns, or 18, you know. So that's pretty nuts. He had the best yards per catch of his career. And so maybe, I don't know, maybe he can go somewhere and be the true bell cow and not have to worry about whatever, you know, Benjamin or
Jesus. There you go.
Chase Edmonds, or you know what I mean, or
Kyler Murray.
Kingsbury. I think he's got a shot to make a good run. I think this is a guy that you send to Houston, right?
Yeah.
Just to clear out the riffraff and take over that role, carry the rock.
That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Well, another guy, free agent, 27 to start the season, ADP 31, fantasy finish of 5, missed 2 games. Leonard Fournette, I would say kind of similar. He kind of found it again this year to everybody's surprise. Rojo is a no-go. So that was off the top, just so everybody
That was
knows.
beautiful, dude.
Thanks, man.
You
Really
should
appreciate
never-
it.
I mean, honestly.
Yeah, thanks. I'll stop you there. But Leonard Fournette, what do you guys have to say?
Man, that was really good off the top there, homie. Leonard Fournette. What can you say about Leonard Fournette? Go for it, man.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, he was in the right offense for sure. I mean, we all know Brady likes to use running backs in the passing game, and he likes to have a strong enough running game, and Leonard Fournette fits that role. One of the best offensive lines in the league. I mean, it's just going to lead to. I mean, this guy was a top 5 overall draft pick, so he's got the athletic talent, obviously, and he just randomly decides to show it. But I don't know. I'm not trusting it. Again, I'm sure it'll burn me. But
Yeah.
Feels like a Tom Brady dependent situation, honestly. I mean, if you think about this guy, he was 3rd in targets amongst all running backs at 84 targets.
Yeah, that helps.
You know, that I don't think that's really sustainable unless you have Tom Brady doing is it Chris Godwin? Is it Gronk? Okay, here you go. or whatever they do, the misdirection, the James White hybrid role.
Right.
That doesn't exist everywhere. Especially is not going to exist for Tampa Bay next year. That team's going to be interesting.
Yes, it is. It's going to be very interesting. So the last, I just want to throw this out here to wrap up the Are They Done? So top 5 ADP players from last year, running backs, CMC, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, Ezekiel Elliott. Since we're talking ADP, I'm curious, which one of these guys are you willing to take at the top 5 next year?
The answer will always be the same. AK-41. Alvin Kamara, baby. Love that guy.
Yeah, I'd probably go Kamara too. Derrick Henry's injury and then like not looking amazing in the divisional round kind of scares me for a guy who's 27 and has had that many carries already. So yeah, I'd go Kamara.
Nice. So I just wanted to throw this out for facts. The actual top 5 for running backs this year was Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, Leonard Fournette, Zeke, Corrdarrelle Patterson, James Robinson, Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, Nick Chubb, and Antonio Gibson. So out of those 15 names, I just mentioned 12, but including the Derrick Henry, CMC, and Cook, only 6 of those are under 27. And as we talked about running back longevity, it looks like there's going to be a new crop moving into this RB1 territory. What running backs do you guys kind of see maybe moving into that going into next year, if any?
Well, I think we all know one of them. Are you guys going to make me say his name?
This is probably Elijah Mitchell, right?
Fuck
right?
no. Javonte Williams, man.
Oh, yeah.
Javonte
That's
Williams.
the way you set it up. Well, yeah, the Javonte's going to be there.
No, I mean, I'm with you on that Elijah Mitchell thing, man.
Oh, I thought you were just setting it up like that because you said, are you going to make me say it because of the whole Trey Sermon angle? But no, Javonte Williams is a great shout.
Now that you bring up Trey Sermon, I mean, I could see him as being one of those guys.
Yeah?
Too.
Fair enough.
Just, you know what? While we're talking about this, I wanted to bring something up. I really enjoyed your statistics last week. Your yards per attempt, yards after the after contact, and whatnot. So I did a little number crunching on the guys you mentioned, and there were about 6 guys that were right at 50% or more of their yards came after contact. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of weighs into this conversation for me. Aaron Jones and Rachaad Penny, which I don't really count Rachaad Penny. Just call me crazy. You can just dismiss me or whatever for dismissing him. They're right at 49%. And then 50% was Damian Harris. 51% was Nick Chubb. 53% was Elijah Mitchell. And then 54.5% was Jonathan Taylor, which you got to do what you got to do. So with that being said, I mean, like you're saying, the consistency of having most of your yards after contact, like that's reproducible and that's something special. So I'm definitely in the Elijah Mitchell game with you.
Yeah.
So
Heck yeah,
should be. Yeah. I mean, he should, now that he's proven it for an entire year, that offensive line, as I'll talk about in a little bit, is pretty good most of the time. So, yeah, I mean, if he can keep that yards after contact number up, he's going to be nasty. I mean, you're on par with Jonathan Taylor almost. Yeah, that's pretty fucking good, man.
Yeah, damn right.
It was amazing. I looked in, so you're talking about the number of broken tackles, and I thought it was pretty impressive that Javonte Williams had the most at 31.
Yeah.
But I wanted to see as a per attempt how it was since he had less attempts than other folks. And it was 15% for him, which is pretty impressive. He's just over 200 rush attempts. And then Jonathan Taylor, who had 30, is more at 7.5. That's literally half per attempt. So Javonte is breaking twice as many tackles per attempt. than Jonathan Taylor. That's pretty crazy.
That's insane.
And then I was happy to see Najee Harris was at 9.5, so better than Jonathan Taylor as well with the comparable carries. So pretty crazy.
Yeah, we've got a huge rookie crop, and that goes into what AJ's saying about that new blood coming in and taking over.
So let's move on to part 2. Christian, take it away with the offensive line.
Yeah, so I just wanted to go over the offensive line stuff because we kind of went and talked about it last week, but I just wanted to dig a little more, see if there was a way we could consistently predict who was going to be benefiting from offensive line play. So I went through and I went over the last 5 years of PFF's offensive line rankings to see if there was any trend we could see and just see who kind of ended up averaging out the best. So I'll go over the top 10 offensive line average grade for the last 5 years. Was the Titans at 10, Rams, Buccaneers, Cowboys, Colts, Saints, Browns, Packers, Eagles, which last week I kind of mistakenly said that they were inconsistent. I was thinking of another team and fucked that up because they've been pretty consistent. They had 1 year, like 2 years ago, where they were 19th. And then, of course, it's the Patriots. And I don't think any of those names would shock anyone. It just shows that, like, offensive line, the good teams keep a really good offensive line because all those teams are always in playoff conversation. Now, if we go to the bottom 10, I don't think these will shock you that much either, but starting least bad to worst, Raiders at 10, Jaguars at 9, Seahawks at 8, Cardinals at 7, Vikings at 6, Jets at 5, Giants at 4, Texans at 3, Bengals at 2, and Dolphins were the worst offensive line over the last 5 years. The Dolphins' average rank over the last 5 years was 30th. Jeez. That was their average.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Piss poor.
They're really, really bad. And so that is one of those reasons you look at everyone freaking out and getting super excited about Myles Gaskins. Because this ranking also, just for the record, is a combination of passing grade and rushing grade. So it's just overall offensive line grade. And so, I don't know, how do you get excited about teams like Miami or Houston, regardless of who they have? I mean, Deshaun Watson showed that you could overcome it, but also it ruined a lot of his games and got him hurt a bunch of times. So it's one of those things that you need to watch. And while saying that, I found some trends that I think are interesting and worth noting. Teams on the upward trend, offensive lines getting significantly better. Cardinals were 31st, 32nd, 22nd, and then 12th and 15th in the last 2 years. So hopefully that means they're going to continue to improve that and get Kyler Murray some more time. The Jets were 5th worst over the last 5 years. They finished 11th overall grade this year. So that's huge for Zach Wilson, Michael Carter, people like that. If you can improve that offensive line, which I mean, Mekhi Becton and Elijah Moore. The Washington Commanders.
Ooh, forgot to bring that up.
Didn't drop that bomb.
Washington I saw a tweet like, how do you even chant that? Washington Commanders. Commanders. Colonel Sanders. Anyway,
yeah, that was weird. I saw this in a tweet, so I forgot who tweeted it, but they literally sound like the bad guy football team in an NFL movie that couldn't get the rights to the NFL. Like that's what they sound like.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were 21st, 19th, 13th, 6th, and 6th the last 2 years.
Wow.
Ooh.
So they're on the up and up, and so we throw a quarterback in there. You've got a 23-year-old Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin. that's a team to watch out for. And then the Chargers were like 11th or 12th worst, and they finished 10th this year. So,
Let's go.
I mean, that obviously kind of coincided with Justin Herbert having a great year, all the offensive talent over there. Austin Eckler finishing second. Insane. Flipping that, teams on a downward trend. This one's pretty obvious, but the Steelers were 12th, 1st, 9th, 17th, and 26th the last 5 years. So hopefully now that they've got Najee, but that's the thing. Now they've lost Ben Roethlisberger, and they need a quarterback. So how are they going to be able to afford to invest in the offensive line and a quarterback in the same year? So what does that mean for Najee Harris? Obviously, he proved that dog shit line didn't stop him this year, but can he do that consistently?
Yeah. Well, good thing they got a tight end in the first round last year. Yeah.
Yeah. The Colts are my second downward trend team. This one's not a steep downward, but one worth watching. They were 3rd, 2nd, 7th, and 12th. So they're still really good, but that is a steep decline. And, declines kind of go with age. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in the draft. And then we got the Ravens. They were 18th, so not great, but then 10th, 2nd, but now they've fallen all the way down to 16th and then 21st this year.
Ooh.
So that's another team to watch out for because, I mean, obviously we don't even know what's going on in their running back room. We got to see what J.K. Dobbins looks like when he's back from injury and how much are they going to run Lamar. But if this offensive line doesn't start improving soon, watch out.
Yikes.
Yeah. And it kind of makes me wonder, like you had said, the Cardinals the last 3 years have had improved O-line ratings. And like those are the Kyler years,
Yeah.
Like how much of that quarterback play really enhances the O-line. And in that regard, I really think that, the Pittsburgh grade, maybe if they get a quarterback that's a little more versatile and shit, maybe it could open things up for him, throw Dwayne Haskins in there. I don't know. Crazy.
What surprised me is you bringing up the Colts on a decline.
Yeah.
On top of the running back and his broken tackle rate. Hell yeah, man.
It makes me happy about what you said about the Commanders, though.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. The Jets and the Commanders are really intriguing ones to watch. I mean, I know it's the two teams we talked about last year, getting really excited about them. So I'm probably going to fall into that hole again. But maybe I'll be right one of these times.
Yeah, man.
Hey, man, you'll be right all the time.
We talked about how bad the Bengals were, and look at them now. Shit.
Yeah, they don't give a fuck.
It doesn't. Yeah. They don't care at all.
Well,
they're just playing football.
That was awesome and beautiful, and I loved it. And then we'll go right into recap of risers to the old Dartha train. Let's get that chug-a-luggin'.
All right. Recapping the risers. So this is kind of probably be a little bit of a repeat. We've really talked about a lot of these guys in a big way. Obviously, I mentioned Corrdarrelle Patterson. I was starting the running back room, and he basically was the only show in town. He got a huge rise. I'm not really. Basically, the theme here is I don't think a lot of these risers are super sustainable, man. So you got Corrdarrelle Patterson. You got Darrell Williams. It kind of feels like that guy doesn't exist anymore, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, Jet McKinnon's doing his thing. James Robinson feels like, who knows? It's a kind of a tumbleweed situation. And then you got Leonard Fournette and Tony Pollard. Say what you will. I think Tony's on the up and up. I think he just slowly starts to eclipse Zeke. So maybe that's a little more sustainable. Already mentioned, not really trusting Leonard Fournette at this point. But then you can't ignore Elijah Mitchell. What else are you going to say? Like that one, he's a riser for an obvious reason. You mentioned it. Injuries on that team gave him an opportunity. He sees that opportunity, and he's holding on to it with two hands. I don't see anything changing there. So other than that, I mean, it's pretty obvious. A lot of these running backs are pretty accurately drafted. I'll get into that a little later. But as far as risers, that pretty much sums it up for the running back room. Let's kick it over to the wide receiver room. You know, we got all the
Wide
hits.
receiver guru.
All the hits. What's up, man? Okay, the biggest name here is Hunter Renfrow. I don't think he's going anywhere, man. You mentioned it, that he has a niche in that offense that isn't really in high demand. As long as Derek Carr is there, you're not gonna break what they have going on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's see. He was drafted as the wide receiver 85. Do I think he needs to be in the top 15? No, I don't. But if he's your flex player, if you take him in the first, if you get him in round 6 or something, probably doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Next up, we got Christian Kirk. What up? I don't know. Slot receiver, Arizona, free agent. There's so much mystery. I think he's awesome. I trust him all the way. But what are you going to do? I'd say don't let him slip to wide receiver 73 next year.
Yeah.
Remember this riser and keep him rising on your ADP. Amon-Ra St. Brown. This one is just going to depend on what they do in the draft next year. If he comes out and he's leading that wide receiver room, then what's up? I don't know. Could be awesome. Could sustain what he started these last 6 weeks and just keep the ball rolling. As mentioned, he was the wide receiver 3 over the last 6 weeks, so he's crushing it.
Yeah.
Got to keep that momentum going. Maybe they get a fresh quarterback in the draft this year. That'd be pretty cool, if you ask me. But after that, you got Hollywood Brown. I've talked plenty about him. I think he's a guy that is getting slept on, and I bet he continues to get slept on. So maybe bump him, take him ahead of where he's being drafted. Just don't reach too much. Debo, wide receiver 35 this year. I don't know what you guys think, but I think he gives me like Deontay Johnson vibes. You know what I mean? Like he deserves to be in the top 12 conversation, but I don't think he's actually going to get that kind of draft capital respect.
I could see that because I feel like people are going to get scared away because it felt like just a random happenstance that he ended up playing this well. Yeah.
I mean, the way that he's been used is just a running back and a wide receiver. Mm-hmm. And you think that, if the quarterback situation there changes and Garoppolo's out or whatever, then all of a sudden some of those rush attempts are going to the quarterback and it's over for him. Now he's a wide receiver. Who knows? It's so unpredictable. That offense changes every year is what it seems like to me. But I still think he deserves some respect. Then I'll just round it out with these last two guys. We got Jalen Waddle, who I think gets a huge bump. Everyone's trusting him. In my opinion, it's weird that no one trusts Tua, but everyone's going to trust Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
And then the next guy, I don't know what to say about because he's going to be a free agent. It's Mike Williams. He finished about 30 spots higher than he was drafted. And I think that he's kind of shown that he's worth that. I've always thought Mike Williams was awesome. I just didn't think he protected his body the way he played football. And it seems like he figured that out a little more.
Yeah. And if you had him on your team, you were definitely 6-0.
For sure.
Sure.
For those first 3
what up,
weeks.
Ian?
So, other than that, it's just kind of some random fellas. I mentioned Brandon Cooks earlier. He was a wide receiver 38 ADP and finished as 16th. It's like I said, man, like no one else is on that team. We probably should have seen this one coming from a mile away. Michael Pittman, whatever. I've always trusted the name. It's good to see something happen there. But other than that, I don't really think you have to get too creative with the wide receiver situation. Let's hit the quarterbacks real quick. I don't want to trust any of these guys. The biggest riser was Tyler Heineke. Not interested. Jimmy Garoppolo. Not interested. Carson Wentz, I think that he's shown that he deserved to be drafted higher than the QB 30, but
Yeah.
I don't think he should break the top 15 or 20, maybe.
No.
And then you got Derek Carr. I will never trust a car, basically.
Not an American-made one.
Only fans.
That's right. Only vans, no cars. But, you know, we can get into a couple other names a little later. But that's basically the risers. Let's touch the tight ends. I think that this one is just not very consistent for me personally. You know, you had the Dalton Schultz situation where you didn't know if he was going to be the guy or not in Dallas. Turns out he was the guy, and he was pretty badass. You got CJ Uzomah. Not really digging that myself. And then you got Dawson Knox. I think we all loved him. He didn't stay healthy last year. A lot of red zone competition in the tight end room in 2020, and they cleaned that up in 2021 and made him the man. I think he's the man going forward. I don't think you can get him anymore. You can't really trade for him without paying more than he's worth. Let's keep in mind that he did finish as the tight end 10, which isn't really like you shouldn't be like selling your house for the tight end 10. You can do something else. Figure it out. So those are the guys that are big risers for me, and just a little summary. Just a little kind of wanted to see if I can see a pattern, you know, like some of these guys, I keep going back to the Brandon Cooks thing. Some of these guys, we should have seen it coming. Damian Harris, you know, when Sonny Michel got traded, should have seen that one coming. But other than that, you know, we've said it a million times. Cooper Kupp, when Stafford was there, should have seen that coming. So it's kind of like I'm kind of treating this as a reflection, you know, like what are the things that are like hindsight that you can make into foresight? That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yep.
So if you guys got anything crazy, obviously if they take a wide receiver in the top 5 NFL draft picks, just take them in the 3rd round. Who gives a shit, you know?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah. 100%.
ADP 73 for Jamar Chase. Like,
Jesus.
that's stupid. But yeah, anyway.
The only smart move I made in the Superflex.
Yeah.
Hey man, this is year 1. We don't want to talk about startup drafts that I've done. So.
Hell yeah, man. Nice recap there, Darther. Fuck yeah, let's keep it moving here. Let's go to the part 4. Success versus experience. I know, Christian, you kind of dove into some running backs, so what you got?
Yeah, so I was trying to just look and see if there was a way to maybe look forward and know if you should go with youth or go with experience. I was going to do it for every position, but I kind of got lost in spreadsheets and doing nonsense.
Hell yeah.
So I took the average age of the top 24 running backs over the last 5 years to see if there was any indication. There wasn't if you did average. 2017 was 25, 2018 24, 2019 25, 2020 24, and 2021 was 25. So it just seems to alternate in around that area for the top 24 running backs. But what I wanted to do was look at percentages and see if there's ever like a wave of young talent that comes in, and then you kind of can predict when the older guys start to get phased out and we get an even newer, younger talent. And it actually kind of was a little eye-opening. And I went by the 25 years old as age. So I separated between 25 and younger and then players older than 25. And so for 2017, that split was 14 guys were 25 and younger and 10 were over 25. So that's a 58 to 42 split. It's pretty decently close, nothing crazy. The next year, 2018, 20 of the top 24 were 25 and younger, and only 4 of them were older than 25. So we had a huge influx of talent. young talent. That was Saquon Barkley year. That was Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones wasn't in the top 24 that year, but that's when he came out. 2019 kind of saw the same thing. 19 guys were 25 and younger, only 5 were over. But we're starting to see a trend now, because 2020, that number decreased just a little bit. 17 guys were 25 and younger, and 7 guys were over 25. That's a split of 71% to 29%. And then this year, we were dead even at 12 and 12 of guys older than 25 and young and 25 and younger. So I think if you go by this 5-year trend, and it makes sense if you think about our running back longevity episode, the average age for a running back coming in is around 22 years old. We always say, from learning on that episode, that like 27 is about the time running backs really start falling off. Okay, you take a 5-year period, you look at the 2017 guys, you have a mix of young and old, young, and now we have another mix of young and old, which leads me to think that a lot of these older guys are going to get their spots taken here in the next year, either due to injury or due to not having it anymore, just body breakdown, just whatever it is. It's never the same thing, but it just seems to be this kind of trend. And then every year that I've done, looking at who was in the top 24 and who fell out of the top 24, I've done it for the last 5 years now. It's about an average of 7 to 8 guys that fall out of that top 24, and they're usually around 27 years old. So I don't know. I think we could see an even bigger number this year with an influx of rookies, influx of just younger guys, maybe even rookies from this year that end up, Javonte Williams completely knocking out Melvin Gordon, Elijah Mitchell throwing whoever in San Francisco out of the way. I don't know. I think 2022 could be a really, really intense year for young running backs.
Yeah, it's kind of just seems like the season is starting over, the cycle, if you will.
Oh yeah. No, I feel like it pumps and drops, or whatever the hell you want to say. Sorry, that was weird.
Yeah, I was gonna try to do it for every position because I wanted to see. Because you would think, in theory, it would go about, okay, running backs, you would have the shortest amount of time before it restarts. Then wide receivers, then tight ends, then probably quarterbacks. So I was going to do it for all of them, and I still might end up doing that and just throwing it in on another episode. But that was my plan. So, but I got running backs done, so I don't know. Could be interesting for these young guys.
Could be very interesting, man. Yeah, because like we discussed earlier in the episode, it does seem like a lot of these guys, at least in the top 12, are going to find their way out.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Darrell Williams, people playing these supplemental roles. Jet McKinnon looking kind of good. It's like these guys are all about to just get replaced. And I'm here for it. That's a lot of fun.
If someone comes in and establishes themselves, then there's no need to put anyone else on the field. And who's going to establish himself? The new guy, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like, sure, it could be Corrdarrelle Patterson or Jet McKinnon, but the numbers say it's probably going to be a younger guy. And it's interesting. It looks like younger and younger as we age here.
So you're saying there's a chance LaMichael P. Ryan.
Oh my God, dude!
Good.
You got the wrong P. Ryan, man.
Got the wrong
P. Ryan. Well, I threw a little nothing as awesome for the wide receiver, just kind of looking. And my whole thing with the age of success is I looked at how many first and second year players finished as top 24 at the wide receiver position. Because it used to be you counted a guy out his rookie year, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then all of a sudden we got guys just blowing up, and second-year guys doing even better. So just as a quick recap, in the 2018 season, there were only 3 first- or second-year guys that made top 24 wide receivers. As Juju Smith-Schuster, Kenny Golladay, and Calvin Ridley. So that's 3 there. Then the following year in 2019, the number jumped up to 5, which was Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, Cortland Sutton, and DJ Moore. But the number continued to increase in 2020, and we got up to 6. So, yeah, 6, huh? That's weird. So, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, and DK Metcalf. So, that's pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. Actually, DK did not finish as a top 24 in 2019. So, the numbers go 3, 4, 6.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you get into the year we just had, and the number has continued to increase. So this past year, we had 7 first or second year wide receivers finish as top 24. And that was from the bottom up, a little build up. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Michael Pittman, T. Higgins, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase, and then Justin Jefferson. So it does seem as though the age of success is getting younger in the wide receiver room. And I don't want to say for sure, but it seems like the older guys are missing a little more time than the younger guys.
Yeah.
Call me crazy. That might just that just might be the way the world works. Who the fuck knows?
It's getting better and better, man.
All your Jerry Jeudy, Kadarius Tonys aside, no, young guys get hurt too. But the younger guys are coming up quicker for sure in the wide receiver game.
Yeah, the world just moves faster, man. Coaching just gets better and better, and then they just keep bumping down.
But the thing that messes with me is guys are playing longer. Their peaks are lasting longer. So that's what made me really interested and to see if there was anything, to the because it seems like it's getting younger, but then what the fuck, man? Old timers still balling out.
Yeah.
So is there like a gap in the middle? Guys who didn't hit it hot and need some time to. No, just joking. I don't think that's a real thing, Auden and Tate, but maybe one day it could be.
Oh, Auden and Tate. Well, let's go into part 5, positional advantages. Daniel, what you got, dog?
Oh my God, this one was rough. So I spent a lot of time looking at some stuff as far as like ADP and where you draft guys and how they finished. And I got a lot of information, but it really comes out to be Captain Obvious, man. It's shit we already know, but I'll get into it anyway. So just to cap off the review of the 2021 ADP versus reality, this is how it went down. In the top 5 rounds, talking 12-team leagues, so ADP 60 or better, there were 25 running backs taken, and 16 of them ended up being top 24. So basically, if you drafted a running back in the top 5 rounds, you had a 64% chance that they were going to be startable. This is how it came out. So you go to the wide receivers in the top 5 rounds. You got 22 of them. 13 of them end up as top 24. The percentage goes down to 59%. Quarterbacks, there were 7 taken in the top 5 rounds, and 5 of those were top 12. I'm not really getting into how deep it goes with quarterbacks. Basically, you took a guy in the top 7 rounds, or you took top 5 rounds, or you took one of the other guys, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So the way it goes with quarterbacks is basically 10 of the top 13 drafted quarterbacks ended up being top 12 this year. So it was pretty predictable. The 2 guys outside of the top 13 that ended up in the top 12 were Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr. So be that as it may, whatever. Tight ends were kind of all over the place. 7 of the top 12 were drafted in the top 5 rounds. And you really, if you want a good tight end, you draft them early. It's pretty predictable with tight ends. The sleepers, kind of hard to catch on. Tight ends is a whole other thing. I'm not going to get super deep in it right now. But when you look at just the top 2 rounds, we're talking 13 running backs were taken, and 11 of those were in the top 17. So you get a little bit better on your odds if you're taking a running back in the first 2 rounds. It's about 84% chance that they're going to be an RB, top 24 RB, and you have a 69% chance that they're going to be a top 12 RB. So nice. That's pretty solid. Obviously, take your running backs early.
Oh, yeah.
No big surprise there, but it's good to see some numbers behind it. In the top 2 rounds, there were 8 wide receivers taken, and 5 of them ended up as top 13 wide receivers. You know, some of these, I couldn't draw the line at 12, you know. Just put the 13th guy in there. So that gives you about a 62% chance of getting a wide receiver 1 in the top 2 rounds. So not bad. Basically, what you need to know is that you got to go after your running backs in the top 2 rounds. Rounds 3 through 5, 12 running backs were taken. None of them were RB1s, and 5 of them were RB2s. So that kind of tells you that it's slim pickings after the first 2 rounds there. Whereas in the wide receiver game, 14 were taken in rounds 3 through 5. 5 were wide receiver 1s, 3 were wide receiver 2s. So you get a better chance at hitting in the later rounds. I broke down the average, pretty much the average points you get from each position per round of the draft. And I won't have to get deep into this, but essentially the running backs in round 1 gave you a 13 point per game average. Round 2 was 15 points per game. It's just how it worked out this year. There were injuries in the top, in the top guys. Mm-hmm. But after that, it drops down to 8.5, 9, 10, 13 in round 7. That's an anomaly. But basically, it plateaus after the first 2 rounds, around 9 points per game. So to get that positional advantage, you really do have to go early on them.
Yeah.
And the wide receiver game, this is kind of nuts to think about. If you'd taken a wide receiver in the first round based on ADP, they averaged 19.6 points per game. But that was only, Devontae Adams. So
yeah, the man.
After that, it stays pretty similar for rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5. They're around 12 to 13 points per game. So you do have a really consistent opportunity to take a wide receiver later. I do kind of lean towards a wide receiver in the second round after doing all this math, but I'm not going all the way down with you guys. And then in the tight end game, it really has a drop off. Rounds 3, 4, and 5 are right there between 10 and 12.5 points per game. If you take Travis Kelce, you get more points than that. If you wait until the 7th round, you're looking at more like 6 points per game. And then in the quarterbacks, this is the one that really blew my mind. So the average for rounds 2 and rounds 3 were in the 20s, and that's Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen, basically. But then after that, it dipped in rounds 4 and 5 down to 16. And then round 6 was the big high point. That's 21.5 points per game in round 6. And let me just jump over and tell you who those round 6 quarterbacks were, just to give you a little more context. Yeah, Tom Brady and Justin Herbert, right? So they just had
checks out
big years. But basically what it's telling you is these guys were the 8th and 9th quarterbacks to be taken. Unless you got a sure thing with Mahomes or an Allen or a healthy Lamar Jackson or something, it's not really worth chasing high round quarterbacks.
Yeah.
It's the long short of it. But yeah, man, there's so much to look at and so much to say that I'm really abbreviating my notes pretty hard here, which I think is for the best. But I will leave you with this small tidbit. Let me just breeze through a couple notes, make sure there's nothing amazing I haven't told you guys. It's very much semantics, but pretty good stuff, honestly. I really enjoyed this. But let's just look at the average points for where they were drafted and where they were finished, where they finished. So for a top 12 running back, as drafted, they averaged about 14.5 points per game. And then where they finished, they averaged about 13.5 per game. So if you took a top 12, you weren't that disappointed in where they ended up. If you took a running back that was drafted 13 to 24, as drafted, it was about 11 points per game. And then as they finished was 9.35. So you basically didn't get that much return if you drafted a running back 13 through 24. It's not that consistent.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, but basically the guys, if you drafted a guy in the top 12, he got X points versus the guys who actually finished in the top 12. So your odds of getting close to that mark by drafting these guys is whatever. Anyway, so with the wide receivers, if you drafted a guy in the top 12, you got 12.5 points per game, whereas the actual wide receiver 12 finishes, not including Cooper Kupp, because that's an anomaly. Like only one guy in your league has Cooper Kupp.
Right.
So you can't really base this off of it. But it's still 12.2 points. So that your chances of missing on a top 12 guy were a little bit higher. Whereas if you drafted a guy 13 to 24, you got 11.5 points. Whereas the finish 13 to 24 was 12.9 points. So basically you weren't as disappointed if you got a wide receiver 13 through 24. It was a little closer to where they would actually finish. So that's pretty much it, man. I mean, there's so much here that's about as easy as I can deliver it to you. I would say take a top 12 running back. Don't worry about taking a top 12 wide receiver. And don't wait forever on tight end. Do wait for quarterback. That's what's up.
Well, you could have just said that. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. No, I loved it, man.
You can read my notes sometime if you want to.
Oh, man. So we'll round out the episode. I just wanted to show last week's draft. Daniel wins again.
Yeah.
I got last.
Sweet.
Christian.
Oh, I didn't get last.
Yeah, dog. Woo. Yeah, so...
is that what I didn't get last either. Yeah.
Oh, shut up. So, kind of done. We're obviously not going to do that this week. So, what we are going to do is...
We're not doing it for the Pro Bowl?
Oh, I guess we could have. Oh, damn. I didn't even think about that.
Good.
Because all I'm thinking about is the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, the real to-be Pro Bowl.
Yeah, I am stoked on this. I've been watching practice. Daniel's been watching a little bit of practice. So I just have I have like a short list. You know, it was hard to make a short list for this because it's so hard not to be excited about rookies. But I just wanted to mention some names that we've seen in the Senior Bowl. Mac Jones, Michael Carter, Justin Herbert, Antonio Gibson, Chase Claypool, Terry McLaurin, Tony Pollard, Hunter Renfrow, Deebo Samuels, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett, David Johnson, Kareem Hunt, Russell Wilson. So it's not a game really to miss, man. You really do get a lot out of watching this. Obviously, they're declaring for the NFL because it's their dreams and they have no more years left. So you really get a chance to watch them work with coaches. It's the first time we get heights and weights of some of these guys, which is really exciting. So with that said, I'm going to start with quarterbacks. Malik Willis out of Liberty, 6 foot, 220. He rushed for 1,800 yards and 22 touchdowns in 2 years. Awesome throw to Danny Gray at practice. I'd highly recommend following Jim Nagy on Twitter to get all these highlights. They're incredible. It's the easiest place to find them. He's got the strongest arm in the quarterback class, and he reportedly ran a 4.3740 before transferring from Auburn.
Right.
So he's I think he might have the edge as of now as the QB1, maybe. It depends on where you look. It's all over the place. Another guy in contention, Kenny Pickett.
For sure.
Also, stop me if you guys have anything to say about these guys. Kenny Pickett's really interesting. Threw for 4,300 yards and 42 touchdowns. He's 6'3", 220. He has 2 ties to the NFL that I found, which I'll get into. But apparently his small hands are a concern. But
Heard that before.
He has double-jointed thumbs. And apparently what's going around is he was interviewed by the Carolina Panthers and he hit his hands under the desk, whether that was intentional or not. But he was the only one not to allow his hands to be measured.
Really?
So,
That's
Heard
weird.
the same thing about a certain ex-president.
Oh, God. So Carolina, like I mentioned, interviewed him. Matt Rule recruited him when he was coaching at Temple. But, he declared to Pittsburgh. And, he took the head coaching job at Baylor. The other tie to the NFL is Big Ben's quarterback coach from 2004 to 2006. His first 3 years in the NFL was the Pitt offensive coordinator during the 3 years at Pittsburgh for Kenny Pickett. And he's, quote, saying, he taught me everything that he taught Ben. So take that for what you will. Also, offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Matt Canada, was part of the Pittsburgh Panthers offensive coaching staff. He was the offensive coordinator, and he helped recruit Kenny Pickett. So
Weird. And then
Interesting.
James Conner came from Pittsburgh too, huh? So
Yeah.
they just go straight from Pittsburgh to
Pittsburgh to Pittsburgh. The third quarterback I was going to mention on the watch list, Bailey Zappe.
Hell yeah.
I'm just going to mention his stats because they're unreal. 475 completed passes out of 686 attempts for 5,927 yards and 62 touchdowns.
God damn, dude. Western Kentucky, man.
Western Kentucky, man. I'll just leave it at that. We'll see what comes out of that. Moving on to running backs. Rachaad White out of Arizona State. He was a 3-star recruit out of Kansas City.
Yeah.
Kansas guy.
Knew that.
Or I guess Missouri. 6 foot 210, so he's 2 inches shorter than he was listed at Arizona State. He did
Interesting.
have 43 receptions for 456 yards, so he showcased his hands a lot this year.
Like that.
He did have positive day 1 notes out of Senior Bowl practice, showcased good vision and cuts for long games.
He had the third highest miles per hour clocked on day 1,
that
too.
he did too. I forgot to mention that. Jerome Ford out of Cincinnati. He actually came in an inch shorter and 10 pounds lighter than listed in Cincinnati.
Ooh.
So he was listed at 5'11", 220, which we know is that size. He came out as 5'10", 209.
Eat a cheeseburger.
Yeah, dude. So 1,300 yards rushing, 6.1 yards a carry, 19 touchdowns. He was a transfer from Alabama.
Yeah, recruited to Alabama.
Supposedly runs a 4.440. And in high school, he ran a 10.61 100-meter dash. So, quick guy. Very quick guy. The next guy I was going to mention, Hassan Haskins out of Michigan. We know him for the 5-touchdown game. 6'1", 220. Was not measured. He seems to be absent. He was hurt in that Georgia game, so it's probably not going to play. Tyler Badie.
Oh, yeah.
Badie or Badie?
I call him Badie.
Badie. 1,600 yards out of Missouri. We know all about Missouri. Larry Roundtree, baby.
Yeah, single season rushing record right there. Tyler
Yeah.
Badie.
20 touchdowns. He did come in shorter.
That's fine.
So he's listed as 5'7", 199, so 5 pounds heavier.
Nice.
So that rounds out. Did you want anything to say?
He did have a lot of good pass catching chops out of the backfield. I know you're into that a lot better than Larry Roundtree,
Yeah.
by the way.
Elusive.
Very elusive.
By the way, I know a lot of these guys from Box Score Boomers. Shout out to our other thing that Daniel does. Jahan Johnson out of Penn State will not be participating. He was
really?
the top receiver in this class as far as seniors go. He decided to opt out. So going into Romeo Doubs out of Nevada, he was a Box Score Boomer.
For sure. The whole Nevada crew's up in
Yeah,
the
Cole
Senior
Turner
Bowl,
made
man.
it.
Fuck
Yeah,
dude.
baby.
Carson Strong's up there too.
Yeah, I saw that. Over 2,000 yards and 20 TDs in the last 2 years. 6'1", 204, 17.3 yards per catch this year. Everywhere you read about him, they're talking about the twitch. They're talking about the foot speed.
Twitch.
So hopefully that translates to good route running or, cuts. Jalen Tolbert? God, I need to get these names right. Tolbert. South Alabama accounted for 40% of South Alabama's reception production in 2020, and then 50% was 2021.
This is their home stadium they're doing the Senior Bowl in right?
They were talking about it. He's been to a ton of Senior Bowls, and he actually was being recruited to be pulled out of South Alabama and decided to stay because that's his home.
Right on. Respect.
So, 1,474 yards and 8 touchdowns. He was listed as 6'3", 190, came in as 6'1", 195.
Okay.
So 2 inches shorter, kind of got the Rachaad Bateman treatment right there.
Hopefully he doesn't get the Rachaad Bateman treatment.
Right. So if you're worried about the small school thing, he's going to go up against one of the top corners in this draft class, so that'll be fun. Cincinnati's Kobe Bryant is on the opposing team, so let's hope they're on the field together at the same time. The guy I want to talk about, Christian Watson from North Dakota State. North Dakota. He's expected to run a low 440 at 6'4", 211.
Nice.
He ran an official 4.4 in high school and a 4.09 shuttle. He's been known to line up on the outside, the slot, the backfield, and return.
Whew.
So he's elusive in that regard. When he was with Trey Lance, he had 732 yards, 6 touchdowns, 21.53 yards a catch, and 964 all-purpose yards. Last year, 740 reception yards, 120 rushing, and 210 kick return yards. So been known to come out of routes kind of lazy, so maybe watch for that.
Weird.
Yeah, Jamon Chase.
RB1 or wide receiver 1 coming up.
So those are some of the receivers. Obviously, there's much more. I'm just trying to condense it for you guys.
No problem.
Trey McBride, tight end. He's going to be your number 1 tight end out of this class from Colorado State. 6'4", 260, 90 receptions, 1,100 yards. He creates space. He's a lot of fun to watch. So it should be interesting. And then the last guy I want to mention is Isaiah Likely out of Coastal Carolina. Getting some big praise out of the NFL coaches. He's a tight end. He had 59 receptions for 912 yards and 12 touchdowns at 6'4", 240. He's a field stretcher. His blocking might be an issue, but he can line up in the slot. At Coastal Carolina, they ran that kind of West Coast offense. Mm-hmm. So, maybe that's what they'll just need him for. Maybe he can be a hybrid. The noticeable game where I was introduced to him from Daniel in Box Score Boomers was against Arkansas State, where he went 8 receptions, 237 yards, and 4 touchdowns, including a 99-yard touchdown reception. So watch out for him. He's projected the 3rd or 4th, but now I'm starting to see 2nd round. So
yeah, that guy's a baller, man.
So watch out for that. There's obviously many more. Watch the game this Saturday, and then I think it's kind of the Super Bowl's around the corner, but it's kind of into season here at Rough Draft Research, man.
Oh, we are in the off. I'm in the off season.
Yeah,
straight up.
I think we're scheduled to go full on rookies.
Yeah,
and from kind of here on out into the
we just. As far as I'm concerned,
combine.
We just stuck a pin in 2021.
Yeah,
this episode.
That's it. The
I
ADP
said everything
episode.
I needed to say. The only thing I didn't say was that James Conner only dropped 2 of his passes. He caught 37 out of 39 targets. So
I love how you scour your notes at the end. Like, what did I miss?
I do. I also want to say I like the Senior Bowl rundown. Main thing, aside from Malik Willis, not a lot of 2 first name guys.